Welcome back to Han Took Shots First. I'm Derek, and this is part 2 of our coverage on episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Remember, you can get access to these episodes early and uncut if you sign up for the Bad Movies Worst People Patreon at patreon.com/worstpeople. But you don't have to do that because you can get them here for free every other week. And remember, going forward, we will also be covering The Acolyte. So in between these episodes, you'll be getting coverage of new episodes of The Acolyte. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the episode.
And this is why the Jedi, like, I still, something the sequel trilogy does great, the Jedi need to die in the form that we have. This dogma is way too much. Qui-Gon Jinn was right. You're reading way too much into literal translation. You're not listening to the Force anymore.
Yeah.
You're
taking your scripts literally and not...
You're emotionless. You're not fucking like... it's not a no attachment thing. It's a nothing. You're a fucking nihilist.
Them
dude.
going off their old scripture is kind of like without when people don't like reinterpret like things that were said in like the Constitution or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, this and this and this, and it's like, well, it says that. And you're like, well, it meant this.
That was written in 1776. Like,
was it life or happiness and the pursuit of, or it's not the pursuit of happiness was what people say.
Yeah.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is life, liberty, and property.
Yeah. Stuff, dude.
Yeah, like people say the pursuit of happiness now, but that's not what the Constitution says, and that's not the way people act in office. But I guess this is kind of George Lucas's thing about like, and it turns out he's right. The separation of church and state, right? She's like, you're a priest, I'm a politician, we can't do this. But once the church and state mix together,
oh, we're good.
The empire rises.
Yeah,
much like now.
Damn, George.
Or at least much like a couple years ago, and then this year again, probably.
Make the galaxy great again.
That should have been Darth Vader's thing. Another terrible line from Anakin, because he's meditating because he had a nightmare.
He's been having nightmares about his ma.
Yeah, and Padme comes in and she's like, oh, I didn't want to disturb you. And he's like, no, your presence is soothing. You make me feel creamy.
You make my lightsaber twitch.
So he's like, I gotta go check on my mommy.
Yeah.
Even though like he goes back and forth from scene to scene because he's like, I don't give a fuck what the council says. And
but now
then he's like, well, the council told me to do this, I have to do this. And then in this he goes back to, well, they told me to stay on Naboo, but I'm gonna go to Tatooine.
No, she's a ride or die bitch, and she's like, well, I'll go to Tatooine, and the council told you to stay with me.
Isn't that that's later when they go to Geonosis or whatever, isn't it? Because that's what she says. She might do it again here. I don't remember.
Okay, you know what? I think you are
She
right.
definitely does that at first because she's like, well, I'm going to go save
Obi-Wan. That's
Obi-Wan.
right. You know what? It's correct. You're correct because it's the Obi-Wan thing. So yeah.
But he says he's going to leave her,
him.
and then she says, well, I'm going to stay with you because you're supposed to protect me. So it's kind of the same thing, but reverse.
Plus,
right?
now I have like an emotional Stockholm syndrome too.
Yeah, exactly. I've been locked in this room with you, so.
Emotionally locked away with Anakin.
So Obi-Wan tries to catch Jango Fett back on, not Coruscant, Camino, the other sea. Well, I think Camino's a K, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
We get our first shot of the Slave One, my favorite ship in Star Wars.
Is it?
Yep, the Slave One. It's just it's the most unique, and it's fucking fantastic. It has some of the best sounding arsenal, and also I love Jango Fett's fucking laser pistol sounds. Like he's got a good sound to him.
Yeah, and I mean it's a unique ship because like it lays down and you get in and then it lifts up. I'm assuming your seat must be in like a.
Oh, you get to see the inside in one of the Mando episodes.
But I don't
it
remember...
shows it's a gyro. It's
okay. That's
as
what
the
I was
ship,
thinking.
Yeah, you sit still. I know I'm doing a pantomime. You sit still and the ship rotates around you essentially.
Okay, that's what I kind of always
not
thought.
The cockpit,
but...
not the cockpit. In the bay, the cockpit, you see them. They are stationary. When it lands on its back. On the thrusters, you're on your back.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, that seems weird.
You see that. But in the cargo bay, you see, I think it's Gina Carino's character and Bill Burr's character and Mando, and they're all sitting there, and you watch the whole thing rotate around. And it's like,
okay, that's one of the best episodes, but I don't remember that part.
I've been waiting my entire Star Wars life to figure out how this fucking thing works on the inside, and we get it, dude.
I always thought it was like that, but I thought it was like the cockpit, like rotates with the window.
You can see it in this how they get in and out. They're flat back.
Okay, I guess it makes sense because while you're flying, you don't want to be
gyroing,
moving around. Although it should just have a way to lock it in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Star Wars. He uses the Force. So
No, he does not.
Bubba gets on board the ship here, and Obi-Wan and Jango Fett have a little bit of a fight. And I guess you can see he is besting a Jedi.
He's at least keeping pace.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's really hard to do. But Mandalorians, for people that don't do a lot of expanded universe, you might not know Mandalorians and Jedi are ancient enemies. And a lot of the Mandalorian stuff...
I know that, but only from the show.
Okay. A lot of their gadgets and weaponry is to combat Jedis. The jetpack alone, or the what they call the Flying Phoenix.
That's why it was such a big deal that there was a Mandalorian Jedi.
Yes, absolutely. One of many, or one of very few. There's a theory, because we're going to fast forward real quick, that all people can be Jedi in the Ahsoka verse, the Filoni verse, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining about that. But there's a theory that the Mandalorians, because of their culture, have bred out their Force sensitivity. Like, you might be Force sensitive, you just wouldn't fucking know because of your upbringing. Nature nurture kind of thing.
So maybe those are the ones that are better Mandalorians. They're better at fighting and stuff. They don't realize that they're tying into that. But...
Yeah, you're just doing it.
Yeah.
And you never got picked up as Force sensitive because it's not enough, but it works for you.
Well, and I don't know where Mandalore falls in. Well, Mandalore's not around at this point. It's already been destroyed.
Mandalore's not been destroyed.
No, that's because the Empire does that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where Mandalore sits in relation to the like inner systems or whatever, because they literally said in the first one, well, if you didn't live in fucking Alabama, we would have found you when you were a baby. To Jake Lloyd, to Anakin as.
Mandalore is not friendly to visitors, so there wouldn't have been a Jedi. I don't know.
Like they wouldn't like it's far enough away or whatever. They wouldn't feel, because I'm assuming they just feel like, oh, somebody on that planet.
I think you'd have to visit.
Okay.
I think visiting, you're like, oh. You would send out people all the time, like, I want you to go visit this place, and just kind of, and a lot of these cultures would have been like, we have one, you know, like we can tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is another instance of someone who should have had their arms cut off, because Jango kicks Obi-Wan off this like platform, and he's got this wire wrapped around his wrists. Right?
By the way, this is another, Boba Fett did the wire thing, like, to Luke. It never goes well when a Mandalorian wires up a Jedi.
Yeah, because they're just going to bring you with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's Jango falls, and that pulls Obi-Wan, but then Obi-Wan falls off, and he breaks the cable or whatever.
Jango releases the cable off his
but
gauntlet.
Then he falls and puts his arms on like this thin metal bar and catches himself. He's fallen stories at this point.
Let me just...
The Force.
The Force.
Got it. Okay.
How dare you?
That's our first shirt. It's just Jack saying, but it was the Force.
The Force, dude.
And then he ropes himself back up with his Jedi powers and throws a tracker onto the Slave One, and it goes away. And then we see Watto again for a short scene wearing a silly little hat. It's like a hubcap.
Uh-huh. I think it's one of these robots like heads.
That's what I thought. I swear I've seen other characters maybe of his race that were wearing these things.
What I'd say, Toydarian.
Sure.
Yeah. No, but he's a junker though. He's not a representation of his race.
Okay.
That
his
would
stubble
be,
looks better.
That
in this
would be
movie.
like going to some fucking backwater ass redneck place that is still hangs a Confederate flag and being like, well, that's a proper American, dude. No.
All right, that's fair. But yeah, this his stubble looks better in this movie.
Yeah, they got a little more ironed out.
A little bit more like hair, and a little less like fucking iron poles coming out of his face.
And this is where we get the beginning of this episode. Chut chut.
Chut chut. I'm using it as cheers. It means hello
or
what's up.
It actually means something
What's up, bruh?
very different. When you look up Huttese, it does not make sense why he would say it to him, but everyone has always used it as like a hello, Watto.
He reveals to Anakin at this point that he sold his mom to some guy named Lars, and then he freed her, and they got married.
By the way, don't tell this boy you sold his mom. Say something else. Just word it differently.
Watto has no compassion for the slave system.
I'm just looking out for his life, dude. Like this giant 6'8" fucking monster is in front of you, presumably with a fucking laser sword, and is like, "Yeah, I fucking sold your mom, bro." Like, no, she's free now, and I don't have her.
Last I heard, your mom was living with this Klieg Lars outside of town, and they were married.
Hey, you know what? You're lying. Build yourself up. I liberated her. You're welcome.
I mean, you skip the whole middle step of I sold her, because unless Anakin's going to be like, well, how'd she get there? But I don't think he would. He's just looking for her.
He wouldn't.
So
this guy just wants to get some fucking answers.
But we meet
Klieg Lars.
Well, Owen and Beru.
Oh, that's right.
Very important to later in the series. And we see C-3PO again for the first time.
And by the way, same actor for sure, and I think same actress in Obi-Wan.
Yes, definitely. Well, definitely the same actor.
Definitely Joel.
I'm not 100% sure about her because she was barely in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
He played a little bit more of a
I think
central
it's her,
role.
but I know for a fact it's him.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him and being like, it's the same problem as the Ewan McGregor, Alec Guinness thing. It's like, 18 years? Well, I guess from here it's a little longer because they have the whole Clone Wars in the middle.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how long that was, 2 or 3 years?
Maybe more.
Maybe more. It seems like a lot, but I feel like, I don't know.
I actually don't know that timeline very well, and that's something I'll have to study tonight.
From episode 3 to episode 4 is about 18 years.
Yeah, I think it's exactly 19. I think they say Luke's age.
Ewan McGregor turns into Alec Guinness, but it's been more than that amount of time since this Ewan McGregor, and he doesn't look like Alec Guinness.
It's called From a Certain Point of View. They explain it. They explain that Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan says like his desert living is fucking tough.
And that's exactly what I said when we were watching the Obi-Wan series. But again, at that point, he's been living in the desert for 8 years, and it looks like Ewan McGregor.
It's also a Michael Fassbender, Ian McKellen fucking problem too.
But those are multiverse things. Speaking of earlier in this episode.
No, that's supposed to be the same universe.
Well, because they go back in time and change things, so it's different now.
Oh, I guess it could be now, but still before they went back in time.
Okay.
Before Days of Future Past, it's still him.
That's right.
And you can see the years where it's like 83,
well, not just Days
93.
of Future Past, but that's a different podcast. First Class I thought was a different origin thing. I don't know.
No.
Doesn't matter. I thought it was like Star Trek with like the Kelvin timeline.
No, I don't think so. We'll be corrected on our own podcast by us. But I don't think that's...
If anybody is listening, go ahead and send us messages and tell us how stupid we are.
Nah, we'll end up doing all the fucking Marvel movies.
I don't have 18 years. I was like, we're going to do all these. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll last us a couple of years if we're only doing a couple of months or whatever. We do all those movies and be like, okay, well, I'll be 79 by the time we finish.
Might have to double up on some episodes.
All right, this episode covers the entire Phase 4.
I mean, we could do a season of Andor on one episode. It'd be rough, but we could do it.
Oh god, that'd be a 9-hour episode.
Nah, we'll try not to.
I don't want to do that though. It's a good show. I want to savor it.
That's true. That is a very savory bite.
But so now Obi-Wan is pursuing Jango to Geonosis.
Uh-huh.
And
so proud of you.
Subtitles.
I'm less proud of you.
Because I kept thinking Genosha, and I was like, that's the X-Men.
Yeah, that's right. It's back to Marvel, dude. 1 hour, 7 minutes in. We get Boba Fett and Jango Fett. Boba, by the way, is laughing maniacally because he's like, I got something for him.
His kid, Boba.
Yeah, his himself.
The wee lad. Laughs like a fucking 5th grade bully.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like when he's like, get him, Dad.
He's like one of the weasels from Roger Rabbit.
I was thinking Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb, great. Now I am proud of you. Salacious B. Crumb. But anyway, he drops these fucking seismic...
his brother. He just goes by Salacious Crumb.
Salacious B. Crumb. He drops these seismic fucking charges, man. And the fucking sound on this, we get 2 of them.
And I like the I wish I had more bass on my surround sound, honestly.
Yeah.
But I like the delay. Like you see it go off and then it's the boom. It's kind of cool.
This is the
you
best...
can't hear things in space, but I like the delay is...
But the thing is, George Lucas created a universe where you can hear things in space. He said it from episode 4. The first thing he ever did, space has sound in this universe.
Okay.
And now stay true to that. That's all it is. You've made it up. And in this universe, it sound is existing. So yeah, let's go with it. So I'm fine with that.
I mean, it would be a lot less exciting if space battles and stuff happened in dead
that's
silence.
The reason. That's the reason that it exists. You know how boring it'd be just to watch TIE fighters ripping around, and be like, well, that was fun. Yeah, I love this fucking sound design. Even when the Slave One fire spray, call it what you want to call it. He's a fucking alcoholic. When he's shooting, just the lasers are ripping. Fucking great sound on these rapid fire lasers.
Yeah.
You know, it's a high pitch, like...
I was trying to figure out what they were exploding on, or if they're made to go a certain distance.
Incendiary rounds?
Okay,
that's what I'm guessing.
Because some of them go past the ship, and some of them explode right outside the ship, but nothing hits the ship except for like one.
This ship would be decked out with the highest tech weapons available at this time more than anything else.
Yeah.
So you might have a
he's got that church money, right?
He's got that church money. He's got that Scientology cloning money.
Tamora Morrison.
Django
Good
Fett.
God, that was hard to say.
Jango Fett.
Django ends up kind of cutting around and coming up behind him. That's where that all happens. And then he does the same thing. He kind of repeats the move, except for when he cuts around, he lands on an asteroid.
No,
being Obi-Wan.
A rocket gets launched, and Obi-Wan's like, all right.
Oh, that's right. There's the whole scene where that
R4?
heat seeker has really got him.
Yeah. And he's like, well, launch all the spare part canisters, and yeah, pulls a great little fucking maneuver. The ship blows up, and he tugs behind an asteroid.
Which you mentioned to me, Boba Fett repeats that later on.
That's how he gets in episode 5.
They didn't know that he did that.
No, he didn't.
So how did he learn from it?
The Force. No, I'm just kidding on that one. That doesn't make sense. No, I mean, maybe like he heard this story later.
Okay.
You know? Like he's just
fucking
like,
Ewan McGregor's walking around in bars during the Clone Wars like, man, you should have seen I took that motherfucker.
He's got spotchka in one hand, death sticks in the other. Should have seen me, man. I was like, on the back of that
if all you drink
asteroid.
is spotchka and all you do is smoke death sticks, you're gonna sound like Tom Waits real fucking soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother.
Episode 3, Ewan McGregor show up and he's just like, you have to believe in the Force. All right.
I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me.
So he hides and Tamora Morrison goes down to the planet. And we're back. I skipped a little bit because we talked about Aunt Beru or Owen and Beru and Klieg.
Again, you've seen this movie, so we are going to jump.
Yeah, but the big thing from that is Anakin finding out his mom was kidnapped, and they sent 30 people to help her, and only 6 came back. So they gave up, basically.
Yeah, she's been gone for a month now. And the Klieg is just like, she did.
Yeah.
I don't want to be I don't really like the bearer of bad news, but she did.
So Anakin sneaks in and finds her just in time for her to die.
Yeah, she can't even say "I love you." This writing is supposed to be tragic. Did you feel? Did your heartstrings?
No, I was
tugged?
actually really annoyed.
I was annoyed as well.
I love you.
I love dead. You can't, dude. Come on.
You know what you can do? You can say "I love you."
So,
you don't have to start over.
I used to have a buddy I would write comic books with because he could draw and I wrote. And this is the kind of shit I wrote when we were in like fucking 5th grade. And the mom looked and said, I love, but you never came out of her mouth. She died. Like, come on, George.
I wrote a comic book with a friend in elementary school too. It was called Super Fart.
Was his name Matt?
No, his name was Ryan.
Like crazy.
He had like insane ADD, but it was before ADD was trendy.
Yeah.
I only know now because like
they're even useful.
I look back and like we would be drawing comics and he'd be drawing shit. And when it got to like action scenes and there was like explosions and stuff, he would like flap his hands in the air and just be like, pew, pew.
Yeah, that's
definitely autistic.
That's a proper ass
definitely
ADHD,
like ADHD.
Though. Yeah,
I loved the dude, but it was called Super Fart. A scientist made a potion to do something, and do
we have a copy of this?
I might have one in a box somewhere.
It could be Patreon material, dude.
If I can find it, I might still have some. He spills some chemicals, and then he happens to fart at the same time, and the chemicals fall on his fart, and it becomes a superhero.
It sounds so Derrick. Dude, if you find it, we'll do a reading of it.
This has a cool song. When he's
music is banging as always,
and he's of course John Williams, right?
Yeah, like we didn't talk about it yet, but we just that's all.
Well,
we
the music
say.
in this one has been less exciting, but up to this point there hasn't been that much action,
right?
So it's a lot of strings. And
you haven't had a chance for Duel of Fates,
yeah, which is kind of worked into this Return to Tatooine theme that plays while he's slaughtering Tusken Raiders, which is basically why the main reason I wanted to mention this scene because it's one of his big steps toward the dark side. Obviously,
I think like. Okay, so how a lightsaber works is to get it red, you have to bleed all your hate and emotion into it. His lightsaber should be red, right here.
Well,
I think
it's blue, right?
It's blue.
So it could be turning like a little purple.
It should. So that's what purple is, by the way. Elephant in the room is that there was only, I think we talked about this, it was only ever supposed to be blue and red, but blue didn't show up in the sand, so they made green. But that's all it was ever supposed to be until... on, I think it's this movie, because we don't see Mace Windu ignite in the first one.
No.
So it's this movie. Samuel L. Jackson just looked at George Lucas on set and was like, can I have a purple lightsaber? I want a purple lightsaber.
And George Lucas took his EU stance and was like, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid.
Sign off on that shit. And because of beautiful EU artists and whatnot, purple now has a meaning, and it is, Mace Windu is perfect for this. He's in he doesn't ignore his dark side. He's in control of it. He's aware of it. It's how, like, when Obi-Wan was able to beat Darth Maul by tapping into his rage. Mace Windu can do that on demand.
We don't really get to see too much of Windu's, like, action other than
not in the movies.
Later on in Jango Fett, like when he fights Jango Fett. But there's a perfect setup for him to just be like, I'll strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger.
And I think I mentioned on the last one, his hilt has bad motherfucker carved into it. Anybody that loves Mace Windu, the novel is called Shatterpoint. Fully recommend.
Okay. I haven't done a lot of EU. I've been doing the Thrawn books because it interests me. But I'm doing the canon Thrawn books, and once I'm done, I'll do the non-canon ones because I've heard
Timothy Zahn ones.
Yeah, well, Timothy Zahn wrote the canon ones too, all 6 of the new ones.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But
Dark
the
Empire.
original, yeah. What was it?
Dark Empire.
Dark Empire.
Yeah.
What's that first one called though? Something of the Emperor or
Emperor's Hand.
I don't know.
Emperor's Hand was that's Mara Jade. That's a shame we haven't got Mara Jade into the universe yet. I say yet because Filoni's smart. Mara Jade was...
He's got all these characters in his pocket.
Mara Jade was an assassin for the Emperor, yada, yada. Wanted to kill Luke, ends up marrying Luke, like they have the baddies.
Well, for people who may not know, even though if you're listening to us talk about a 2-hour and 20-minute movie for 4 hours, you probably know. Like, Dave Filoni did most, or was in charge of most of the Clone Wars and then all the new stuff, pretty much.
That's why we
him
call it
and
the
Jon
Filoniverse.
Favreau. But
less Favreau now.
yeah, I mean the best stuff was Favreau. I hate to say, I mean Filoni's I think he's doing a good job. I like most of the new stuff.
But you can tell when Favreau's not there.
Yeah, those first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are the best of all the new stuff. So Anakin, we hear that theme. He goes after his mom. He ends up slaughtering all them. We did that.
Not just the men either, the women and children too.
Yeah,
Another
terrible delivery. Just like not just the men, the women. Children.
And we talked about at the top of the podcast. She's in love with this fuckboy. Even right here, like she's gonna bring him home and fix him.
Yeah, she's like, I'm disgusted and horny.
So we got Obi-Wan on Geonosis, given he can't reach the council from to Coruscant, so he has to beam it to Anakin, who he thinks is on Naboo.
And this is when we finally see Dooku, right? This is the first time we see Dooku.
Because he gets taken.
Yeah.
And
we hear Dooku first, right? We don't actually see him when he's talking to the Trade Federation and the bankers before they catch Obi-Wan, or do we see him? We definitely hear him.
Yeah, we hear him. So we see him when Obi-Wan's all strung up.
Okay. All right, I thought that's when he first appeared. We just heard his voice.
We are well over an hour into this movie, and the villain in the beginning, Skrull, just came out.
Yeah.
So,
and there was a point later on here where I was just thinking, like I watch Martin Scorsese movies, I watch Michael Mann movies, I get 3 hours, but like at a certain point I was like, dude, this movie's still going.
But it's exactly.
But when you start feeling that way, something cool happens. But in between, it's like, good God.
Everyone knows that I'm a fucking Star Wars appreciator and apologist, and this movie is the one that feels long and a chore.
Yeah.
I don't feel like watching any other Star Wars movie, maybe Episode 9, is a chore besides this.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like there's stuff I can enjoy in all of them. And there's stuff you can enjoy, but it's not until hour 50. You know, back on Tatooine, Anakin returns with Shmi wrapped up in a cloth. And I couldn't help but laugh to myself. He's like, why did she have to die? And I was like, because the other 3 movies already came out, dude.
She's not in the later one, bro.
How are you going to become Darth Vader?
Fuck.
Like, I know the Padme thing pushed him over, but the mom thing didn't help.
The mom is the start of it all.
Yeah.
This is why
he's already started.
This is why the council, though, was like, no, we can't take him.
Yeah.
Because, and they were right. They were right to. It's just that Obi-Wan was...
Well, and Obi-Wan wanted to do what Qui-Gon wanted to do.
Yeah, misguided. He was misguided on this.
And this is when she tells him, like, you can't stop people from dying. You're not all powerful. And I should be. And someday I'll be the most powerful Jedi ever. And he tosses some more shit like a little baby throwing a fit.
Yep.
And then he says, I'll stop people from dying.
Which is not true. You're going to kill people.
Yeah, you're going to kill a lot of people.
Especially this one.
Almost as if it were an entire planet of people who screamed out at once and were silenced.
I was even just talking about her. But yeah, you actually obliterated. Well, I guess that was Tarkin.
Yeah.
But you know, he's there. He's there. He's got his hand on the trigger as well.
That's like saying, we nuked Japan, but it wasn't the president's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
So he admits to her he killed the whole camp, and he cries, I hate them. I hate them. They're animals. Ooh. And we hear the Imperial March, a remix of the Imperial March going on in the background.
It's Imperial March adjacent. One more. Another one. Another one. And then he kills these people and he goes, turn down for what?
So Anakin and Padme get Obi-Wan's message and they transmit it. And I was noticing she pushes one button to transmit this message to Coruscant. And then she needs to pull up the map to show them how close they are to Geonosis.
Yeah, they're showing us.
And she pushes the same button. One button.
That's just bad Padme.
But they tell him, stay where you are. Like, that's an order. Stay on Tatooine. We'll be at Geonosis
Which
soon
makes
enough.
no sense. You're ready to just like your disconnect, your lack of attachment is like let Obi-Wan die. This fucking Jedi that everyone's been talking great about, Mace Windu, Yoda included, Qui-Gon fucking love this dude. Like they keep saying, Dooku will say later, he's like, dude, fucking, you're supposed to be spoken of high regard by Master Yoda, yada yada. No, let him die on Geonosis.
Well, I don't know if their thing is. I think they're trying to keep, and here I am apologizing for a bad script. I think they're trying to keep him out of that because he's emotionally attached there too. And they're like, look, we'll be there soon enough. We have fucking light speed travel or faster than light travel.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be there soon. Because they're the ones who show up in time. All he does is make it worse.
You're not wrong. Because, it's not that they're going to execute Obi-Wan right away.
No, they have this crazy fucking Colosseum where I guess instead of the Romans feeding people to lions, they feed them to a giant praying mantis, an angry cat, and some kind of weird lumpy bull.
Yeah, it's a Reek, a Xenu, and...
no, Xenu is from Scientology.
Or it's a large saber cat.
Oh, that's the cat?
Yeah.
I was like, if that's the praying mantis monster,
the praying,
it kind of makes sense.
Praying mantis, like, I can't remember. It sounds like acolyte, but it's like a cleity. It doesn't matter.
I just don't see Tom Cruise worshiping a cat, but a giant praying mantis.
I could see him worshiping a cat or a giant praying mantis. But his mantises prey on people.
But this is more her fault. But again, I feel like his Anakin's influence is here because she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go save Obi-Wan. You're supposed to protect me. You can come.
I think it's her being a fucking bout it bitch.
Yeah.
She's a ride or die. She's like, oh, I understand that you got this order to not go help him, but you also got an order to save me. Watch me go put myself in trouble, bitch.
And I think until he Stockholmed her, she was a little more into Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Oh, something we haven't talked about with Obi-Wan. I mentioned it earlier in a brief joke, but he had left after wrapping up initial filming to go do Black Hawk Down, where he shaved his face and cut his hair. And then he came back on this to do reshoots, and it is very obvious when he's wearing a face wig and a wig.
Okay, I thought it looked weird.
Sometimes it just looks weird.
I thought it looked weird at some points. Not as bad as them CGing off Henry Cavill's mustache.
No, nothing looks that
Justice
bad.
League, but Zack Snyder's Justice League. But it doesn't look good.
No, there's a couple times you can see it just looking weird. And like, why is that? Maybe it's the fucking glue that keeps the pubic hair on his face.
So they take off to save Obi-Wan, and they steal C-3PO. They don't ask the Larses. Owen,
I built them.
Klieg. Yeah, exactly. Like C-3PO's on their ship, and they're just like, yeah, we're taking him.
Yeah. Well, we're done. We were trying to negotiate for fucking Shmi, and now we don't need you to negotiate. Get the fuck out of here.
And speaking of 3PO, we're going to skip over it pretty much, except for like one or two lines that I have to talk about. But this whole thing later with him getting his head plucked off.
Some of the
whatever,
most annoying.
That could all be cut. That's
R2's
some Jar Jar
dragging
shit.
his head, and he's like, this is such a drag. R2 brings him next to his body, and he's like, I'm beside myself.
Those are the two lines. They're stupid.
They're dumb.
But I was like, well, at least I can see that he's attempting, like, it's a bad, cheesy joke, but it gave me a dad joke chuckle.
I'm going to give you one I like. Hearing Anthony Daniels scream, "Die, Jedi dog," made me chuckle. And he's like, what am I saying? It made me laugh. But like
that whole sequence, though, is just like, it's erroneous and unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's like all the stuff with Jar Jar in the first one where nobody else in the movie knows this is going on. And it has no impact on the story. It's just Jar Jar in the background doing some stupid shit. And that's what this is. But that's a whole action sequence.
What did we say? This is like 220?
Yeah.
I could cut it down 90 minutes. I can make this 90 minutes.
Even if you were trying to include certain things, I mean, it could be 2. It could be shorter than the original movie.
I'm just saying, this is a tight 90.
Because the original movie is 201, right? So, I mean, you could make it at least the same length.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just cutting out the 2 scenes we mentioned earlier and the C-3PO shit.
Dooku ends up gaslighting Obi-Wan. Like, he's got him all strung up dominatrix style. And he's like, oh, bother. I'd have you out of here if it was up to me. Not a good Christopher Lee. I'm just doing British.
And because Christopher Lee is a menacing British,
yeah,
that's tough to pull off.
I don't think I've stabbed enough Nazis to be able to talk like him.
I haven't stabbed enough Nazis or sang for enough metal bands.
Yeah, I'm down on both of those.
This is where we get Patch from Evasion in here to tell us what it's like to be Christopher Lee. He's never killed a Nazi as far as I know.
No, but he's in a metal band at least.
Yeah, so he's halfway there.
Living on a prayer.
Whoa.
Stabbing Nazis in the air.
Dooku's trying to get Obi-Wan to join him. And, I'll never join you, much like the Empire scene, but not good.
Not good at all.
At
dude.
all. Like, there's
but
no...
he does have there's some playful things here where he's like, your master Qui-Gon might have joined me. You know, like he's like, don't. No, he's like, Qui-Gon would never join. He's like, don't. I don't think you know that about him. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like,
because he's not admitting at this point that he's evil. He's just saying, you should join me because we can save the Republic.
I'm a separatist, because he tells him that's right. He tells him the plot of the movie. He's like, the Senate is being all controlled by the Dark Lord of the Sith. He's like, I don't believe you. He's like, but I'm telling you it's true. And if you join me and we leave and become separatists, we can destroy the Sith. He is gaslighting him in the sense that he is a Sith.
Two, though, right? He's like, you join me, we'll kill my master.
Because Dooku might believe in the rule of two.
Obviously, you said last episode, Sidious is trying to do away with that in a way, but like,
yeah,
this is Dooku pulling the traditional Sith thing. Like, well, you join me, and then we'll kill him, and then we'll control everything.
Yeah.
But he leaves out that last part. He's like, we'll save everyone.
But he's also not telling me he's a Sith. He's like, we can destroy the Sith. We just need to get rid of this corrupt government.
Yeah, I had the exact line. It was, what if I told you the Republic was under the control of a Dark Lord of the Sith?
Imagine,
like,
if you will, a galaxy without Sith and Jedi.
And that's when we get I think this is the first time we get the name Darth Sidious, as he tells Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so weird. And these movies came out the first one came out when I was 14, 13. So this one came out when I was like 17. It's one of those things where I'm like, in my head, I feel like I always knew that his name was Sidious and Palpatine, but they don't say that in the original. They just say the Emperor.
Yep.
It's just so weird.
But maybe you played a game, maybe you read a comic.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you talked to somebody that did, because it ended up becoming common knowledge for all these expanded universe nerds, and I mean that with love.
And Obi-Wan's like, I'll never join you, and that's when Christopher Lee, Dooku, started this out by being like, I can help you get out of here. And then he's like, it might be harder than I thought. And he kind of gives him like a little, like, he like looks at him and winks and like shakes his ass and walks out of the room.
There's a book that's like a visual dictionary of Star Wars. And when it has Dooku, there's a meme about it, but it literally like points to his face, says signature look of superiority. And motherfuckers got it this entire goddamn movie.
Well, Christopher Lee is superior to most people in this movie.
He ain't wrong.
I mean, Ewan McGregor's close. He's not as storied. But I mean, you look back, I remember some people being upset, like, because I knew film nerd people when I was younger too. Not as much as me, mostly, but people who were like, Christopher Lee, you know, he's debasing himself being in Star Wars. And as a person at this point, especially, who's like, this guy played like Dracula and shit a lot in Hammer movies, he's not debasing himself. And also, but he's still a better level, a better caliber of actor than almost everyone in this movie.
Whatever you think about this movie, he elevates it.
Yeah.
Like, he's not taking anything away. He's not debasing himself. If he was being it was a shitty role and a shitty performance, I could agree.
There's a couple, we talked about the speeder. He doesn't look great there. And then during the lightsaber battle, when they're doing the shots of like the faces.
Just their faces with the lights
and the
going
lights
over
are just flip-flapping.
But besides
Christopher Lee
that,
just looks like George Lucas was like, all right, look at the camera. Action. And
Wave a
Christopher
little
Lee's
light
just
over his
waiting for something to happen, and they're just waving a fucking neon of a glow stick around.
I get it.
Christopher Lee's like, I'm too old for raves, man.
Yeah. No, I get it, because I saw that part and I was like, this is rough. But besides that, I know it's not him always, but the lightsaber duel between them I enjoy.
It's a good duel, and also, I mean, there's got to be a stuntman in there or CG, or both. But it looks like Christopher Lee most of the time.
I think you have a stunt guy. They put a little Christopher Lee face over.
Because I watched it in 4K, which is not how it was originally intended, but it was digital, so it's higher definition. And like, it doesn't look like it's not Christopher Lee.
Right.
So But we go back. We're at the Senate, and this is where Jar Jar has now taken the place of Padme because she had to leave.
Yep.
And again, I don't know why they didn't just have her fake person do it. It wouldn't matter. It's the same outcome.
Because we want to have Jar Jar be the fool. Well, he was manipulated by Sheev.
I guess this, though, is a bigger decision, and Padme is unaware of what's going on. This giving him supreme power.
She never would have signed off on this.
Yeah, and so, but he overhears them saying, "Well, if only Amidala was here," which I'm sure was intentional.
Oh yeah,
because then Jar Jar is like, "Oh well, I'm kind of like her." Sorry, I said kind of like a her.
Misa like a her.
Misa, sorry.
Yeah,
I forgot he doesn't speak any way correctly.
No, spec.
A spec. A spec. No. A spec. So I intelligent.
Dude, it's so terrible. Get rid of him.
But he proposes the Chancellor gets emergency powers and takes over. Very much like this is almost exactly what happened with Hitler in the 30s. Was basically it was like, hey, there's an emergency, and he's like, I'm going to take supreme control, but I'll give it right back.
Rumor has it that he's at least in episode 3, and I think even right here.
Who, Hitler?
We haven't gotten to his 3rd episode yet. I think he's on the moon right now waiting. No, Lucas was drawing inspiration for an extreme version of George W. Bush.
Okay.
You know, like I think that he thinks that George W. Bush faked war just to be able to get more control, yada, yada. And he's trying to write that.
This is that period. And I'm all for like music and media, like saying what they want about people who are in charge.
Yeah.
But this was that period when W was in power where like bands and movies and TV shows were very heavy-handed with their like commentary. It wasn't like stuff from the 80s or even the 90s where they were being judgmental or they were saying something and they were trying to be more subtle. This is like Green Day American Idiot level. Like
our voice had gotten big, dude.
Yeah.
The Abby Hoffman counterculture just got bigger and louder.
Yeah, it's just so heavy-handed. It's not subtle like it was at one point, and that's exactly what he's doing here. I did appreciate in the Senate. So the Senate is obviously CG. We don't have floating platforms.
We don't, dude?
But I appreciated that a lot of the creatures in the platforms were puppets. Because throughout most of this movie, it's CG.
People in costume.
Or at least people in costume.
When you go by, at least the Aquilish were real people.
But you can tell by like the way some of them are clapping and stuff, their hands aren't quite coming together or whatever, because they're either animatronics or puppets or they're people in suits. And I'm pointing it out by saying something negative you can see, kind of. But I appreciate a weird person in a costume not being able to clap more than I appreciate a CG cartoon clapping like a fucking cartoon.
Especially in Star Wars.
Yeah.
More people in suits, please.
Because that's how the whole thing started. And I understand evolving with technology, but you can integrate.
We'll give you examples. Jabba as a puppet, Jabba versus CG. Here's a clear winner.
That CG Jabba and that fucking original, I don't know if they probably kept it in the remaster of episode 4.
You know what? I bet you if you watched on Disney Plus, it would be there.
The problem is too, like those remasters. He did the theatrical one, and then he changed it more for DVD, and then he changed it more for Blu-ray, and then they changed it again when it went to Disney Plus. Like every version that comes out has more things changed.
Yeah,
and it's just
you fiddle too much, dude. Stop fiddling. Like, you had a good product. Shit doesn't have to be perfect.
Look, let's just make all the walkie-talkies guns.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they changed that back.
The other way around. Make all the guns walkie-talkies.
I think they did make all the walkie-talkies guns again. That's a shirt. Make walkie-talkies guns again.
So he forms the Army of the Republic, and that's what's going to lead to the rest of the entire series. The next 9 movies.
Hey, you know what? I promise when this is all over, I'm going to give back my ultimate power, my ultimate say in things. I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah. No, I don't want to do this.
Come on, guy. Trust me.
Come on, guy. I don't want to do this. Just put me in power. I'll give it back.
I'm going to win the war. I'm going to give it back. Come on, guy. I can change.
I can change.
Nerds.
So then Anakin and Padme get to Geonosis. Windu is supposed to go to Geonosis with the other Jedis, and Yoda is going to Kamino to see about this clone army.
I'm gonna see what's up.
So we don't see him go to the planet or pick them up or anything, and it's kind of weird when he just appears with them later. But also, based on what I was saying earlier, I have to say, thumbs up.
Yeah, I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
I don't need
'Cause
that.
we don't need a scene with a little short CG guy talking to a big tall CG guy to collect a bunch of CG soldiers. That's for the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
the show.
Did you have any questions about the Sifo Dyas plot? Like, who funded this shit? How did it actually happen?
I mean, if you know stuff, they said Sifo Dyas, and I was like, name I've never heard.
You shouldn't.
And
It's
he's the
drop
one
plot.
who ordered the clones in the first place.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Sifo Dyas was a Jedi that was gifted in premonitions, like would have dreams and shit. And for whatever reason, I think it ended up being that Palpatine put it in his head, like, oh, there's going to be some shit happening without him knowing.
Okay.
So he ordered it, but it was Palpatine's Darth Plagueis master, because he's part of the banking clan. He funded it.
Okay.
And so, like, the Jedi never questioned any of this.
So that was why, when they first said Tyrannus, I was like, oh, I thought Jack told me that was Palpatine's guy, but that was Plagueis.
Yeah.
Another name that sounds like a bad guy.
Yeah. Plague, Sinister, or sorry, what was it? Insidious?
Yeah. So we have Plague, Insidious, and Tyrannical,
Tyranny.
who are going to come on, and they're Jedis. I wouldn't worry about it.
3 terrible adjectives walk into a bar. But yeah, it's a plot line that you literally need to read at least one book, probably 2 to understand, and that's dumb.
Yeah.
That's not good.
And then there are the people who are 100% into that, and I don't fault them for that.
It should be ancillary. It should not be required.
Generally speaking, they do a decent job in the Star Wars universe of folding in EU stuff and giving you enough information to understand what's happening. And maybe it's because I'm already like I said, a comic book nerd and stuff, so I can take a little bit of information and extrapolate it. And maybe like the general movie going public is going to be more like, but who? It's like when we watched Ahsoka, and they have, and I don't know the kid's name, the one they have to go save.
Ezra
Bridger. And they go to get him, and they're talking about his Jedi master who trained him.
Kanan Jarrus.
Or
Caleb Doom.
Whichever one they say in Ahsoka.
No, it's the same person.
Yeah, but they say one of them. I think it's Kanan
Jarrus. Freddie Prinze Jr.
And, oh, that's right. It's Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character. Okay. But Whitney was like, do I need to know who that is? And I Googled the name real quick. And I was like, well, the only picture on the internet is a CG character from Clone Wars, so no.
Yeah, Rebels, actually, but yes.
Or same type of animation, so I don't know. But, like, it's going, okay, well, they threw that nod in there for the people who've watched it. But all they're telling you as a viewer who doesn't give a shit about the cartoons is
it's his master.
That was his master. It doesn't matter.
And I actually can't wait to record some of those episodes, because I have a lot of different opinions about how much Rebels tied in. So I can't wait to get there.
The idea here is that you know too much and I know just enough. And then when we have a guest, hopefully they know less than either of us. I mean, most people know less than you, but
about Star Wars,
about
not
Star
life.
Wars, not general life. We're both 40-year-old bartenders. We don't know a lot about life.
I'm literally having a job so I can pay for my alcohol addiction.
But I may watch Rebels before we get into Ahsoka. It's only 3 seasons, right?
Maybe 4.
And are they 24 episodes also, or they're shorter, aren't they?
Yeah, it's actually a breeze, especially because I can cherry pick for you. We can cut a couple episodes each season out that are just filler that mean nothing.
But the beginning of that 3PO thing we talked about, I did like the beginning of it. So Anakin and Padme leave the ship. 3PO and R2 are on the ship. And this is like their first real interaction with each other. I mean, they met at the house and stuff.
Yeah,
but basically 3PO's like, well, I understand humans, so I'm in charge. So we stay here. We don't go anywhere. And R2 basically beeps at him, go fuck yourself. I'm going to go help.
Watch this.
Hold my fucking droid dick.
Hold my scomp link.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You've said that before, and I will always forget.
Yeah. Scomp link.
But yeah, I just love it because R2 beeps and rolls out of the room, and all you can hear in those beeps is, eat it, shithead.
Eat my dust, bitch.
So then we have this video game level on these conveyor belts.
We can walk right through this, right?
Yeah, there's not much to go on here. But the big thing I want to talk about is just how video gamey it is. Both of them do the same thing. Padme stops, and then when the thing lifts, she runs underneath. It's timing. And then Anakin does the same thing later when his arm gets trapped in that piece of metal.
It's fucking Geonosian gladiators, dude.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. And it takes so long.
Instead of Nitro, the gladiator's name is Click Clack.
The way the whole thing ends, the whole purpose of the whole thing is Anakin lost his lightsaber.
Foreshadowing his hand getting cut off.
Okay, is that what you were talking about?
Because
okay.
he's got it. There's blades that keep just getting a little bit closer, but he doesn't get
I don't understand this thing his arm gets caught in, because it's like they're making parts for droids.
Yeah.
So this is attached to a piece of metal.
Yeah.
And when it cuts off, it cuts half of it off. I'm like, is this just a manufacturing default and he was lucky?
It's a really bad design for how to make a droid.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this now. So these are the Geonosians, right?
Yeah.
These are who designed and built the Death Star.
Yes, we do see he has the head one has the plans.
This explains why the Death Star has no railings and why it has multiple levels.
Oh, 'cause
these
they
are
have wings.
winged people. So, and we see it in this factory. This factory is built just as dangerous and shitty.
Okay, from another point of view,
From a certain point of view.
But that's great with the Death Star.
Yeah.
Why does everything in Star Wars have no railings?
Because then the Galactic Empire was like, well, it's cheaper that way, and we don't give a shit about human life.
All right, that's fine.
Also, it looks cool.
Because once we get to episode 7,
Uh-huh.
where Han dies,
Uh-huh.
spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah, I think you know. No,
when I was watching the movie, I'm like, classic Star Wars, long walkway, no rails. Why would you walk out onto that thing?
The ultimate answer,
get
though,
there.
the ultimate answer, cool fucking shots.
Yeah.
That's it, dude. When
Having
you
a
watch,
big gaping chasm looks cool.
yes, especially when it's got red aura under it. Yeah, like that's the short answer. I can tell you the Geonosians designed the Death Star, and that's why it's multiple platforms. That's from a certain point of view. The answer is dope shots. Sci-fi looking sets.
And you know what? I'll say in the original trilogy, which we're going to be at soon-ish, the drop-offs, which are all matte paintings, look way cooler than most of the CG drop-offs, at least in the prequel.
You are not wrong.
The sequel, a lot of those drop-offs look better, but again, we're talking 20 years later.
Right.
So.
The matte ones look so much better. Why did we stop with that technology? We'll save it for
I understand why they stopped. I'm sure having someone make a giant painting for one movie for 3 shots is expensive versus having some guy do it in a computer.
I don't think so, man. CG's
Well,
not cheap.
Some guy from India who you're underpaying.
Okay.
Him and his 10,000 friends, because you see these credits on the movies these days,
Yeah.
and like 8 minutes of it is VFX people. So,
Mhm.
but I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, sadly. But anyway, so R2 does have a line though when he walks in and he sees the machines making the droids.
No,
He's like-
C-3PO says it.
Or did
You
I
said
say
R2.
I said R2. R2 doesn't have lines.
I mean, he does lines.
He has beep boops.
He does lines.
That's what the little front wheel is for. It's a little vacuum. That's how he uses his jets here in a minute. But 3PO has the line, "Machines making machines, how perverse."
But how else do you expect it, man? This is what happens. This is life, bro.
I guess because he was built by a human.
You know what?
So-
The maker.
Yeah.
Because that's what he says when he sees Annie. He's like, "Are you the maker?
Yeah, I guess he must have read his DNA.
Maker's mark." You smell him.
You smell like Maker's Mark. You must be Anakin.
You smell like you're about to kill a bunch of sand people.
Even when he was Jake Lloyd, he was drinking all the time. But R2 pushes 3PO off, and then he flies away with his little jets, which just negates a lot of things from the original trilogy. But
yeah, but hey, guess what? It's in the story. Like, 'cause it's not going to stop.
Is it in the book?
It doesn't stop happening.
But is it in the book? What? I already forgot. Let me, from a different point of view.
From a certain point
Point of view.
I haven't looked that far into it yet, but I guarantee you it is. I mean, the technology's always been there for R2, but not for George Lucas filming it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. Like, oh, now that I've gotten a full fucking CG goddamn astromech, he can fly. Fuck yeah, he can do this.
Because previous R2 would have been a lot like, I can't think of what they're called, but the bad robots in RoboCop, where it finds stairs and just tumbles.
Yeah. I actually don't know what those are called.
I can't remember what it's
The
called.
hall monitors.
But yeah, the yes, that was a 3PO thing from before. Is like, well, I guess I'm going to tumble down these stairs. Is the way he would have worked. Now he's got jetpacks.
He said 3PO when he meant R2.
Did I say it again?
Yeah, you know you did opposite now.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know what I mean.
They're all robots, right? You're robots.
It's letters and numbers.
Very different ones, though.
So R2 has jets.
Yep.
So does Boba Fett.
3PO has sass.
So R2 ends up saving Padme
Wait, you
from.
say, so does Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Because it's Django.
Well, Boba Fett has jets later.
I'm just being a dick now.
I know. I was thinking of the MC Chris song, "My Backpack's Got Jets." I'm Boba Fett. the Fett. He says it's because it rhymes. It fits the scheme.
Of course. It's MC Chris.
But R2 ends up saving Padme from this teacup full of molten lava.
And you said that right.
And Anakin loses his lightsaber and they get caught. And this is when they're both tied up and they're about to get pulled out to the Coliseum. And she says that line I talked about earlier. I've been dying every day, a little bit every day since I met you. It's because I love you.
It's so forced and it's so poorly written.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like her, like, you know what? I've been lying this whole time or hiding it this whole time. I do love you. I've been dying every day since you came back in my life. All right, typo negative. Come off it a little bit, dude.
Yeah, Trent Reznor wrote this part of the script.
I want to lightsaber you like an animal.
But this is kind of one of your hated tropes in this movie is the quick love.
Yeah, but hey, guess what? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
The Force.
The Force love?
The Force can fix all plot holes, Derek.
So they go out to the Coliseum. Obi-Wan's out there.
I told you to send for help. He's like, well, we did, but also we came to rescue you. Looks up his chain. He's like, how's that going?
Yeah, good job.
Good job. This is good rescue.
Another slight against Anakin that pushes him toward the dark side, because Obi-Wan says, good job. And you see Anakin just be like, you don't appreciate anything.
This motherfucker right here. I hate me some Obi-Wan.
So they're sentenced to execution by monster, which we talked about the monsters.
Yep.
I have no memory of these monsters before today.
They're kind of boring. I mean, like, I know there's the praying mantis, like, terrifying monster, but
that one's decent.
All in all, it's kind of a boring scene, though.
They don't do anything. Like, Padme picks her handcuffs and climbs up to the top of the
She does
pillar.
get her shirt ripped. We talked about sexy stomach
She does get scratched and get her shirt ripped open. But, like, I mean, she swings and kicks this thing in the face, but then we basically can jump straight to her poor vagina.
Yeah. Oh God. But before we get to her poor vagina, this Coliseum is probably set up for a lot of planetary executions.
Yeah, it looks a lot like
people
Thor
that
Ragnarok.
can fly.
Yeah.
Go on.
Why is it open?
Like this is, well, even if you chain them, these three individuals without wings were able to climb up and get away from these creatures. What makes you think a Geonosian?
Maybe when they're executing Geonosians, they cut their wings off.
Oh, maybe that's what's happening.
It seems like a pretty brutal
from
planet.
a certain point of view. Derek's right. But yeah, it's now we're to this lady's poor fucking vagina because
she jumps off the thing onto the reek.
The reek, yeah.
But it's like, I mean, it's 2 stories. It's 20 feet. No less than 20 feet. Off the top of this pillar.
We watched Princess Bride recently, and Robin Wright jumps into Andre the Giant's arms. That's where you want to be. You don't want to go spread leg open onto a saddle of a horse, let alone the back of whatever this creature reek is.
Much wider than a horse.
Much wider. Like just poor. And it's
if that story earlier wasn't about losing her virginity, well, she just did then.
That was my first time I got kissed. The first time I got fucked.
They send out the droidicas. Yeah, see, I know a thing.
Dude, I'm so proud of this guy.
And they kind of surround, our heroes. And that's when Mace Windu swoops in. Well, he sneaks in. The rest of the Jedi
foreshadowing, he puts his ignited lightsaber, I think the first time we see it ignited.
Yeah.
And he's got it to Jango Fett's head.
Yeah. And he's talking to Christopher Lee, and the rest of the Jedis kind of airdrop into the Coliseum.
You know what? You don't even see an airdrop. This looks, because right now,
I guess that's what I assumed. My brain filled in the blanks.
They all of a sudden are just up in this arena. Like nobody saw cloaked individuals. I think cloaks are magical in Star Wars. Like when Obi-Wan puts his hood up, everyone's like, where'd he go?
That's the most suspicious thing you could do.
Not in this universe,
You
pal.
see a guy walk by you with a cloak on, you're like, the fuck's that guy up to?
There is sound in space. And there is anonymity in cloaks.
Well, and but everybody seems to know a Jedi when they see one, and it's got to be from the cloaks.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a dude in a hood, cloak
instantly.
That's a Jedi. It's not an angsty teenager.
I could certain point of view it myself and just be like, there's a lot of religions that have cloaks and headdress. They're more common than we think.
Yeah, and this is a very religious universe.
We're gonna get to my least favorite. So, all right, I had a great memory of this growing up. Of this part of the movie where I'm like, oh my God, this is the most amount of lightsabers we've ever seen ignited at once. They are going to town, because Count Dooku even says you're hopelessly outnumbered and just calls in the fucking droids, man.
Yeah.
The Geonosians just fucking fly out of here. They're fucking done. It's not their fight.
Yeah.
We're here to build
Which
droids.
probably had a lot more to do with budget than that.
Probably. But bring in, now you bring in other CG characters, though.
But like having those CG characters and one with wings, George Lucas is like, look, we can do one or the other.
I'm going to pick. But so, yeah, so all these fucking droids and these Jedi are fighting, and it's dope to see because it's the biggest Jedi thing we've seen. But then you realize these Jedi are awful strategists.
Yeah. Like I was thinking earlier when Obi-Wan was being beaten by Jango, I was like, well, that's kind of weak for a Jedi. I mean, he's holding his own, but he's losing.
I think it's
and
supposed
then they
to be
get to
that
this, and I'm
Jango's
like,
that dope.
But we get to this, and I'm like, oh, so Obi-Wan's the best of the Jedi.
Yep.
Got it.
The rest of them, all right, so
they've never been in war.
Exactly. It's been 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But and maybe that is like a certain point of view kind of thing. But here's this superior fighting force with lesser numbers. And what do? I'm going to drop myself in the middle and be surrounded. Why? Like, that's the dumbest. Any fucking war book will tell you that's bad. Give them the high ground, and we'll take
Obi-Wan should have known because he's very famous.
No.
He's very famous for the high ground. But we have the Jedi versus the droids. Somewhere in here, Jango gets trampled.
Yeah, the Reek fucked up his backpack, which I think is the only reason Mace Windu was able to beat him.
Yeah, because Mace cuts off this dude's head. And Boba Fett...
Because you see his backpack malfunction.
Yeah.
His jetpack.
Boba Fett, clearly, he sees it happen, and like it's clearly like, okay, he's mad at the Jedi now because they killed his father. But I'm like, you realize your dad was the bad guy, right?
No. You would never realize that. You think fucking the sons of Nazis were like, God, my dad sucks. Like, no, like, fuck yeah, he's doing his job.
I think they think their dad sucks. That's why they changed their names.
No, that's their grandsons. The sons were next up to fight. They weren't waiting 18 years. I do like the shot of Boba having the helmet to his head.
Yeah.
I like that shot.
It's a sad, tragic, fairly well done
Blood
shot.
wouldn't be dripping because it's cauterized. The head would still be in there because of the fucking suction. We've heard the noise they make when they take their helmet off most times.
Yeah.
Not every time, most times.
Do you think he ever unhooked it, or do you think he was just like, I'll keep the head in there?
No, he unhooks it because that's his armor.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He just gets it spray painted and changed and whatnot.
But so the droids are closing in on the Jedi. They're circling them in. Dooku stops them and offers them, like, hey, we can join forces, or you can give up.
Yeah, give up right now and I'll spare your lives. And Mace Windu's like, I ain't gonna be no fucking bartering chip.
Yeah.
And and he's right, because that's exactly what would happen.
And then we get Deus Ex Yoda, who shows up with the clone army.
I like that. Question.
Yes.
We got the clone army from Sifo Dyas, right? Where's all this fucking weaponry and machinery coming from? They had no army. They had no navy. Where are these fucking light cruisers coming from?
The Force.
Where are these LAATs coming from? Where are these ATTEs coming from?
This clone in the yellow armor, or the white and yellow.
Yeah.
And he says he has 5 special commando units. Is this the Bad Batch?
No.
Or the
this
origin
would not be
of?
the Bad Batch, but this would be, there are multiple... So the Clone Wars cartoon, go back to, they give a lot of these guys their own personalities. Yes, they're all clones, but they all have nicknames. Sixes, Top Knot, Wolf, Rex, Cody.
And that's like the Bad Batch, though, right? Not
No.
the regular clones?
No.
Oh, even
this
the
is
regular
not the
ones?
Bad Batch.
Okay.
I'm talking about regular clones.
Okay.
They just develop personalities, and that's how they get rank. So his commandos would have been like specially trained for infiltration or to work with Jedi.
And I mean,
or
we've
something.
seen later in like basically in the shows recently, the different color stormtroopers that do different things, like the flamethrowers and the explosives and whatnot. So I'm assuming that's what the yellow is.
It was big in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Their pauldrons also showed it. I'll give you a quick Bad Batch before we go. They were explicitly experimented on to try and be certain things. You had one guy who was a good sniper, one guy that was good with tech, one guy that's a strong guy.
Okay.
They're all clones, but they're genetically manipulated to be almost Suicide Squad.
Okay.
So that's all you need to know for now.
So we find out that here's where we find out that Geonosians have the designs for the Death Star, and he gives it to Dooku, who's like, I'm going to take this to my master. It'll be safer with him.
Oh, you see Banking Clan here, by the way. The race is called, I want to say it's Moon, M-U-N, Mun. This is Darth Plagueis. They are very tall. It's all CG. It's a very tall, thin-headed alien. He's like, the Banking Clan will,
Yeah.
So you see him, it looks so, I can't even imagine Darth Plagueis being evil because he's so derpy. Like his race is of the derp. Go on.
We call them the derpoids in this universe.
Oh, I'm from planet Derpy Derp. Sure.
Christopher Lee takes the plans, and it's kind of, they're still acting like you don't know that Darth Sidious or that Palpatine is in charge, because he's like, I'll take the plans to my master on Coruscant.
It's supposed to be revealed.
Yeah.
When later we're about to get to fucking Sidious and Dooku or Tyrannus or fucking Palpatine, whatever you want to do. give me any combination of Rubik's Cube Sith names. But yeah, it's supposed to be revealed, and you're like, yeah, no. We know. We watched the first one.
Yeah.
We watched the 4th, 5th, and 6th one.
Yeah, we've seen the sequels, I guess.
Yeah. Call it what you want to call it. More Anakin cringe, because now Padme, they shoot the LAAT, which is the
plane.
ship. Yeah, the plane. Thank you. Save me from myself, Derek, please. It's late. But yeah, they shoot it. Padme falls. And Anakin's like, land the plane now.
Yeah,
and
I gotta
like,
save her.
Dude, no, think of your fucking mission, dude. You can't have attachment. I don't care. They'll expel you. No, I don't want to be
I
a
still
Jedi.
don't care. That's
Like,
fucking stupid.
it's so
what
rotten.
would Padme do? And he gives him a little bracelet, WWPD.
What would Padme do? Hashtag.
she would complete her duty or whatever the fuck he says. So he cries
Fine.
some more.
Yeah.
And then
listen to some fucking yellow card.
they get to Dooku, and I was waiting for a really cool like 3-way battle like at the end of number 1.
Uh-huh.
Which I guess still ended up being 1-on-1 and then 1-on-1. It started out as 3-way.
Yes.
But this is Anakin charges in like, I can take him. Sure.
Force lightning into push combination.
Yeah.
Because he flies across this room. I got to say, you might like it, you might hate it. Christopher Lee is going for hand acting.
Yes.
With his, every time he uses the lightning, the force pull, force push.
Unfortunately for him, the lightning in this looks worse than the lightning in Return of the Jedi.
How?
I don't understand. It's been literally, 19 years?
Guess what
at
the
this
force
point?
can't explain.
Like, lightning got better over time, all right?
Yeah.
I guess I was about to say worse over time, and I'm like, nope, strike that, reverse it.
Yep. Put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
So Dooku and Obi-Wan fight, and Dooku beats Obi-Wan, and then Anakin jumps in and
by the way,
saves
we got to
him.
talk about his lightsaber, right? It is a really dope ass curved hilt.
Oh yeah,
It's again something that George Lucas thought was a cool design, and that was the end of it. Until an author got a hold of it and was like, no, it's for a very specific form of lightsaber fighting.
okay.
From form whatever. I'm not going to pretend
That's Tiger
I know.
style.
Like, I'm not going to pretend I know the 7 forms of the fucking lightsaber. I
Anakin
know.
Obi-Wan do monkey style.
I don't think I'm going to do Dooku style anymore, Dad. But yeah, so it's a very it's for specific movements that he makes.
And we get about 8 seconds of what looks like it's going to be really cool. Obi-Wan throws Anakin his lightsaber. Anakin has 2 lightsabers.
And you get like 3 good movements.
Yeah, and then one gets knocked out
And
of
then
his hand.
Dooku fucking like, psh, no.
Yeah.
And now we get to the part that we talked about. We're not going to harp on it, but it's the overhead. It's a still shot of the actor's face. It's like they're FaceTiming each other in this duel.
Yeah.
With
It's like Tony
Put
Stark.
the lightsaber filter on there, Derek. I can't see it behind you.
It's like Tony Stark inside the Iron Man armor.
Uh-huh. It is. Oh my God. That's the fucking early technology for this.
And Anakin gets his arm chopped off. Dooku wins. Yeah.
Flawless victory. But it's not, because he looks tired as shit, right?
Yeah. And Yoda comes hobbling in. And this is what I remember the most. Because Yoda comes hobbling in all slow and then is doing his flippy fights.
I got to ask you, do you like it or not?
I like it more now than I did when I first saw it.
I love it.
When I first saw it, I was like, because I'm used to Yoda, not Anakin. I'm used to Yoda being a puppet who's controlled from under the ground by Frank Oz.
But 2 things. I sent you off air.
Yeah, you sent me
the puppet they tried to use they did use for Phantom Menace. They replaced. So that sucked.
Yeah.
Also, you can't have a puppet do this, and we deserve this.
Well, no, you can't, and I understand it.
We deserve this.
But I just remember when it first happened, he came hobbling in the room, and I remember seeing this movie. I woke up at the end. I remember seeing this and being like, oh, Yoda's about to start doing some crazy shit. Like, he comes hobbling in all slow, and it's like Willy Wonka when he falls down outside.
But I think, I'm going to force explain this, he he walks like that to not exert the Force. Then he focuses the Force to be a fucking world-class gymnast.
Yeah, he's not using it to just get himself around. Because that would be selfish.
Why would you day-to-day that? Like, no, I'll wait for a big fight.
Yoda kind of basically triumphs. Dooku runs away.
The only way that Dooku wins is because they're the lightsaber fight we're not going to describe as awesome, but then the very end, I think they realize it's a stalemate, and Dooku goes to throw some bullshit at Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a true Jedi, let them die. Kill Dooku. War over.
Yeah, because you don't care about anybody.
You don't care?
Right?
No attachments, dude.
I can't even think of the music from this scene, and all I can think is, well, then Duel of the Fates would have been better. But they already did that.
They already did it, and this isn't as impactful.
No.
That's why we forget it, because this movie almost doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, it really
Right?
is nothing.
Like, we explain a bit of why there's a clone army. We see Anakin being a fucking fall to the dark side douchebag, but like nothing really happens.
You mentioned, I think you mentioned in the first one, Anakin was supposed to be older.
In the first one, he was supposed to be older. Last second change.
So
was
if we
Jake
had
Lloyd.
done that, then we could have skipped this.
Yeah.
And then gone into, and then 3 could have been 2, and then 3 could have been something better.
Okay, I had said earlier, the fucking Coliseum part with all those lightsabers is one of my favorite things because it's the most ignited we've seen. Show me battles of that.
Yeah.
Show me Plo Koon or Kudamundi or any of these fucking Jedi that we don't see doing. Kit Fisto, the tentacle. I knew he was going to laugh at Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto is the dreadlock tentacle dude that pushes over 3PO and has that beautiful smile. Like, show me these motherfuckers leading a fucking batch of clones, because they all had their own assignments, I guess we'll call it.
Well, because even from the little bit of the cartoon I watched, most of the time it's a Jedi with a clone army with it. So it's like
An
one
attachment.
lightsaber.
Yeah.
Not.
But there was
whole
times they met up.
Yeah.
Like, it was, I mean, that's why I like the Clone Wars. They have the budget to do because it's not live action.
Yeah.
What this couldn't do.
Yeah.
But so, yeah.
Even though this looks almost the same.
Yeah.
But Dooku gets away in his space sailboat.
This is my least favorite starship in Star Wars. This movie has my favorite starship with the Slave One, and then this little fucking pinched bubble. It's like a crab claw is pinching a marble, and Dooku's in that marble. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's the dumbest ship ever. Pff, solar sail.
Yeah.
I guess
it's better than lashing himself onto some of them space whales.
the Purgles.
That would be Dune.
Yeah.
I'm riding this space worm whale.
That is Dune. That is Dune.
And then we find out, shock, Dooku is Tyrannus. He's meeting up with Palpatine.
What?
They're talking menacingly about the future.
Yeah.
He's meeting with Sidious. When he's got the hood on, he's Sidious. When he's got the hood off, he's Palpatine.
But also, just to give a quick callback, we see when like the clone army comes in and saves all the Jedi from the Coliseum, a bunch of the Trade Federation, Techno Union, and yada yada. Like, wait, what? The Jedi couldn't amass this kind of army. It looks like they did. And Dooku playing them, he's like, no, that sounds impossible. And then gets to Sidious. He's like, it all went to plan.
Okay, yeah, they're right. He does say that. Because I thought about that when he's like, how'd they assemble this army? I'm like, Django said he met you.
He's acting. He's just acting.
Yeah,
He's
you're right.
Yeah, because Sidious, and I wondered that, for a couple of times you watch it, you're like, oh, is he in on it? Yeah, he's absolutely in on it. He's placating all these fucking dudes, the banking clan. He just wants resources.
Yeah,
You're
Paulo
nothing.
can fold in the Techno Union.
Yeah. They're gonna do Sandstorm later.
Darude is a Star Wars name.
Darude is definitely a Star Wars name.
But then we get this ending of Anakin and Padme kissing and being sad,
the worst
happy.
robotic hand ever.
Dude, it looks like those claws we had as kids.
You went
at
to
least in the
Spencer's
90s.
Gifts.
Yeah.
You got one of these claws.
It looks kind of like the Terminator hand.
You went middle finger on that.
Yeah,
you gave one of
it's
your
all
friends
you
a middle
did.
finger. Yeah, if you're a cool guy. Maybe you gave him like a little throw and rock and roll goats.
You do the goats and then you do the middle finger and then you're like, that's more fun. Because you're like, look, I'm not flipping you off. Only these fingers went down a little bit, but the robot hand is flipping you off. That's the end of this movie. We cut to the Star Wars theme, which probably has a name that I don't know. No, that's not it. That's still it fades. Like every movie ends.
Yeah, there is a title I'm blanking on. It's not The Rise of the Force. That's one of my favorite ones from him. But yeah, it's the big fanfare one. Yeah. I'll get the name for you.
And we've been drinking, and that's it, folks. We're gonna go. We do a lightsaber scale of 1 to 5 lightsabers.
I said it earlier, man. This gets a 1 short Yoda saber, like not even a full-fledged humanoid lightsaber.
Not a half a saber and not a full saber. Somewhere in between.
Yeah, I love a lot of the things. Like this is still a Star Wars movie, so I can watch it and I know when to pick my phone up and start doing something.
Yeah,
and I know when to put it down.
It propels the story forward, but it's like this is a 20-minute episode of a show stretched into a 2-hour and 20-minute movie that we've been talking about for 3 hours.
Here's a Jack caveat. If you've never watched this movie, I recommend you watch it. If you've watched this movie, you're good.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. I'll call it a Yoda saber because it's more than a half, but it's less than a full.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think I said this off air. When the title came out, because there was a fake working title, when the actual title came out.
Jar Jar's Big Adventure?
Jar Jar's Big Adventure. Misa Lono, Daddy. Misa Rebel. Ewan McGregor found out the title was Attack of the Clones and laughed out loud. Just laughed.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yes. So.
And the clones don't attack. They defend.
Yeah, this is not the attack of the. What is happening with the attack here?
I mean, they're attacking, but they're attacking the bad guys.
The Attack of the Clones might be a better title for episode 3 when they actually attack the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. When they become bad
spoiler.
Guys. Yeah, spoiler alert. The Jedi lose temporarily.
Kinda.
But yeah, so that's that. We've given it our ratings. Next episode, obviously, will be episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Which is a nod to
Revenge of the Jedi, one of the original titles.
Yeah, but Jedi don't take revenge except for the main one.
Except for all of them. Except for the best ones.
Except for all the ones the movies are about.
Yeah. All the ones that matter were about revenge.
You can find Jack and I on another podcast called Bad Movies, Worst People. Check that out at badmoviesworstpeople.com. We have a Patreon on there. If you're on the Patreon, you got to hear this episode first.
Ow!
So if you sign up for that at patreon.com/worstpeople, then you get to hear these episodes earlier.
From a
like if you go sign up right now after you heard this episode, there's probably 2 more out there. There should be at least 2 more.
From a certain point of view, that's a good deal.
It's only $3. It's a great deal.
Great deal.
There's other content on there too, but that's for a different show.
Mm-hmm. This is not the podcast you're looking for.
You can find us on social media at Han Took Shots First. You can send us an email, hantookshotfirst@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, there are people out there who will have criticisms of both of us.
Star Wars fans, dude, please. Like, I don't often say this, but at me.
Yeah.
I know I'm wrong about stuff. I know there's somebody out there that knows more about a lot of subjects than me.
Yeah. And we're open to criticism. And if you say something that I think is stupid, I'm going to make fun of you, but do it anyway.
Yeah. I said something stupid during this episode.
I'm sure I did.
Not you. You're flawless, honey. Fucking ever since I've known you, I've been dying a little bit each day.
That's it for this episode. So join us next time. I've been Derek.
I'm Darth Jack.
And remember, I don't like sand.
It's everywhere.